This is CBC Here and Now.
I'm a parent who just happens to be the Premier of the province.
An emotional Dwight Ball is speaking out tonight about his involvement in the Brandon Phillips murder investigation.
Ball says he did what anyone would do if they had information about a case like this one.
Ball's daughter, Jade, was in an on-again, off-again relationship with Phillips.
He was recently found guilty of second-degree murder in the death of Larry Wellman at the Captain's Quarters Hotel.
After the shooting in 2015, it was Dwight Ball who called police to identify Brandon Phillips as a possible suspect.
Earlier this month, Ball tried to block the media from reporting on information that didn't come out during the trial regarding his daughter.
But yesterday, that publication ban was partially lifted. In a candid interview with Here and Now's Fred Hutton, Ball says he did what he had to do as a father and a concerned citizen.
Take us back to that moment when you realized you did have to go to the police and your daughter was somehow may be connected to this. What were you thinking at that point in time? How difficult was that for you?
My focus at that point in time was like most people within the province. They were aware of what happened. And you know, when I saw the video that the various media outlets had posted, and you know, I started putting a bunch of things together.
That was the black jacket?
That was the black jacket, and so there's a number of things that had been happening to me personally, and then knowing the location and knowing, you know, the issues around substance abuse and seeing this black jacket and not thinking about what any consequence would mean. None of that mattered at the time. I just felt it was my duty as a resident in this province, regardless of what was going on in my life. It was my duty to do what I think any responsible person would do, is actually go forward with that information, and be it relevant or irrelevant, someone else would decide that. But that was really about the decision. There was no hesitation on my part.
You went there, though, you know, not even knowing if you were possibly implicating your own daughter.
No, there was no discussion with my daughter, my own daughter, prior to, you know, going to and speaking to the police on October the 8th. But you know, it's about.
But was that in the back of your mind that you could be?
I'm very confident that my daughter would have been safe. There was, you know, I've had. You know, I just did what had to be done, and it was about the justice system. It was about, you know, a man had lost his life, an innocent man had lost his life, and what the consequences would have been, you know, 2 years later or 2 months later. It was not really something that I was thinking about. I just felt that I had to go forward with the information.
Many people may still have the question in their mind as to why you didn't go forward sooner, knowing what they know now. You know, you had people sending you threatening texts and email, Facebook messages, the money that was racked up on your credit card. They wonder why you didn't go sooner. What was that, the tipping point? What happened at the Captain's Quarters?
It was, but there's no doubt. I mean, there were a number of issues that were occurring in my life with my daughter, and I've had a great relationship with my daughter. She's really an innocent person in all of this, and I've always supported her. And you know, she actually, you know, not knowing, unknown to me, that she was actually speaking to the police on other issues as well, because she felt at the time that there was some threats in her life that she needed to deal with. And you know, she did that, and even during the investigation she met with the police, as many other people did, and her story was told, and both the defense and the Crown had looked at the information that she came forward with, and they all agreed that this was irrelevant in the trial process, and it wasn't required. So you know, I did what I had to do, and I'm sure that the timing of it, you know, could have been different. You know, looking back, I know when I felt that I should go was the right thing to do, and that's the reason why I went forward on October the 8th. All the other issues, I was dealing with that, like many families in this province are dealing with this today. We have fathers and mothers and grandparents that actually speak to their children. I always encourage that discussion. It's something that I've done for over 30 years as I worked as a healthcare professional, very acutely aware of the impact that it would have on families. So I've always done that with my own daughter, and I've always supported her and continued prior to this event. You know, I did what was necessary, what any father would do to make sure she was safe.
People still may think because you're a high-profile politician, a guy with some money, that you may have gotten special treatment or your daughter got special treatment by the police. What do you say to that? What do you say to those people who may still think that?
Yeah, never asked for special treatment. Always, you know, I've been always very transparent, and I've come forward. I've been very straightforward with people. As an example, the information that I shared with the RNC on October the 8th, I've never seen that transcript. It was never given to me to validate it. They used it as they saw fit. So I can guarantee the people of this province, there are no guarantees. There is no special treatment for me or my daughter or my family in all of this. You know, I could argue, I guess, in some ways that if I wasn't Premier of the province, that, you know, others might have been treated differently. So, but you know, I'm aware of that as a public figure, and I think it's the right thing to do. But there was certainly no special treatment for my family or for me or my daughter in this particular case. When
you had to pay back that money, how did that happen? Did you meet with the people who were owed the money?
No,
for the drug debts?
No, never. Never had any conversations with any of those people. I've left that to, you know, to the individuals that were involved at the time, and you know, when I was approached, to the circumstances, you know, again, it was, all I wanted to do was make sure that my family, that they were safe, and
that would be Brandon. Who?
That would be, you know, my daughter and Brandon, and so we did what any father would do, and try and help those individuals. And I would say over my life, I've always tried to support other families as well, and that's exactly what I was doing with my own family at this particular point in time.
It really came to a head just before you became Premier of the province. And a lot of people will look back on that now and say, how did you possibly manage to run a campaign, not only run a campaign, but win a campaign, and function on a daily basis when you had this major distraction of turmoil in your personal life with your daughter, who, you know, was in trouble?
Well, number one is always, I have a lot of family support, a lot of friends that support me and my family along the way, and I was always in contact with my daughter when I was on the campaign trail. But it's what a lot of families in our province and around this country that they deal with on a day-to-day basis. My circumstance probably a little different than most. But
it does speak to that, though, what lengths a parent will go to, because long before you were in politics and long after you'll be out of this office, you know, you're going to be a dad.
I will always be a dad, and now I'm going to be a granddad, and so we've been, and I'm enjoying that. But it's, you know, all families deal with different issues, and in this particular office, I get the opportunity, and I always do, to support many families, you know, when they're in their time of need. And I always encourage parents to have that conversation. Sometimes they're difficult conversations that you need to have with your sons and your daughters and your nieces and nephews and so on. We have to have those conversations, but they also must always know that as a parent, our ultimate responsibility is to actually support them.
Do you think that any of what was going on in your personal life impacted some of the political decisions you may have made, that it may have clouded some of your judgment?
Oh, never clouded my judgment. You know, I always take the time. I usually make the decisions that I have to make based on the evidence that's been presented. So I always take the necessary time, and I do often sit alone and think about and review the evidence before decisions are made. And when I need to reach out for advice, I'm not shy in doing that, if it's inside of government or outside of government, on issues that impact Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. I will say that the experience in terms of mental health and addiction, I think that helps the whole decision-making process for many young people and even older adults in our province that had to deal with significant health issues and substance abuse issues. So I think that experience actually helps with those decisions.
But it's difficult when you have to talk about somebody else's situation who's close to you, who didn't sign up for this to be a politician, is it?
You know, I still think I'm in a very unique position to help a lot of people in our province, and I'm going to continue to do that. If it's on mental health, if it's about addictions, or if it's about any of the other social issues or economic issues that impact our province. I think at this stage in my life, I've had a numerous number of experiences, both socially and economically, that I can use that to benefit our province, and I will continue to do that to the best of my ability.
Did you ever think about quitting when all this was going on?
No, I never did.
That your attention needed to be at home rather than this?
No, because I was always very close, and I can tell you right now that my daughter, that's the last thing she would have ever wanted me to do was quit because of, you know, the issues that she was dealing with. She's always encouraged me to do this job. And she always felt, and she encourages me even this morning with text messages and saying, "Dad, you know, you're doing a good job. I'm proud of you. Continue to do what you're doing." And
what does that mean to you to get those texts from her?
It means a lot. And she also knows that if she needed me to be closer, well, I would be there.
This has obviously taken a toll on you, sir.
Yeah, I'm a parent who just happens to be the Premier of the province.
How is Jade doing? You are a grandfather?
I'm a grandfather, and I'm looking forward to getting back for Christmas. So.
Thank you for chatting with us today, and Merry Christmas to you. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Here and Now. A bus crash in Mexico has claimed the life of a Newfoundland woman. Stephanie Horwood is originally from St. John's, but had been living in Gatineau, Quebec. The crash happened yesterday. 3 other Canadians suffered minor injuries. The bus was carrying passengers from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship on an excursion to Mayan ruins. There are reports that up to 12 people were also killed when the bus flipped on its side. Global Affairs Canada says it's assisting Horwood's family.
It was payback. That's what motivated an arsonist to set fire to 3 community buildings in the Bay d'Espoir area. Donald Craig McCate says January's incident was his way of making society pay for his unfair life. He detailed it all in a handwritten letter to the court. Here Now's Garrett Barry has our story.
It's all right here. This 25-page handwritten letter details McCate's life story, struggling growing up, coping with death in the family, and deciding to set 3 fires in January. Heavy rains hit Morrisville in 2016. McCate's house was one of many flooded. He helped out his neighbors, but when his application for compensation was denied, he set into a deep depression. Then he started his fire planning. A school building, a combined town and fire hall, and the police office. Buildings that were valuable, but likely to be empty overnight. On January 17th, he sprang into action, using bottles of gas and a butane torch, igniting fires in 3 buildings. Then, sitting down and waiting to be arrested, he told officers this was his way to make society pay. McCate wanted to act out for more than 20 years. He wrote life was unfair, that he was mocked and mistreated, and by 23, lived as a shut-in. He vowed, "I will extract a payment for my unlived life," a vow he now feels he's fulfilled. McCate numbered his pages and gave his essay chapter titles. He called his story A Life Unlived. He'll be back in provincial court in January when a judge will decide how much more of that life he'll spend behind bars. Garrett Barry, CBC News, Gander.
The Prime Minister was forced to apologize today for breaking the government's ethics laws. It has to do with a family vacation that he took that included Newfoundland MP Seamus O'Regan. In a scathing report, the Ethics Commissioner says Justin Trudeau broke the rules during a planned visit to luxurious islands owned by the Aga Khan. The CBC's Katie Simpson reports from Ottawa.
The Prime Minister says he takes full responsibility for what's happened and is vowing not to repeat his mistakes.
Clear that I should have taken precautions and cleared my family vacation and dealings with the Aga Khan in advance. I'm sorry I didn't, and in the future I will be clearing all my family vacations with the Commissioner's office.
Ethics Commissioner Mary Dawson says Justin Trudeau broke the law for accepting 2 family vacations on the Aga Khan's private island. At the same time, the Spiritual Leaders Foundation was lobbying the Canadian government. Trudeau also breached the rules for accepting a ride on the Aga Khan's private helicopter, which should have been cleared with the Ethics Commissioner first. And she didn't accept Trudeau's defense that he was simply vacationing with a close family friend. She found Trudeau and the Aga Khan aren't actually friends. The vacations in question happened in 2016, and both times it was the Prime Minister's wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, who reached out to the Aga Khan's family to organize the Caribbean getaways. Trudeau says that won't be happening again. Still, this decision is not good for his image, since now he is the first Prime Minister ever to be found guilty of violating Canada's ethics laws. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
There's a call for a formal apology for people who went through resettlement back in the 50s and 60s. It comes from 2 brothers who went through it themselves. Here Now's Ramona Deering has this report.
Hayward Blake spends loads of time in St. John's now, but he thinks a lot about where he grew up and what resettling did to his older relatives.
This is me, probably about 10 years old.
Push through on the south coast of Newfoundland. The family left in 1969. 20 years later, it was all just a memory, as Dave Quinton found out when he went there with Land and Sea.
There's nothing left of Push Through now. The last of the homes have crumbled and collapsed. Not much indication that over 200 people lived here.
The Blakes went to nearby Hermitage, outsiders feeling their way. Hayward Blake says resettlement left his widowed mother in debt and his grandmother heartsick, and traumatized many he's heard from.
A number of people who dropped out of school, people who said they were bullied when they went to their new communities. So, you know, this is an untold story.
Hayward's brother Raymond Blake is a professor in Regina now. The brothers want the Prime Minister and Premier to say they're sorry.
The apology is first and foremost what we're looking for. And we're looking for a recognition that the resettlement of the 50s and 60s was not done in the manner that it should have been.
They want compensation, too. Raymond Blake says he's not looking for money for himself, but rather a plaque or a scholarship, some way to acknowledge those who suffered under resettlement. Ramona Deering, CBC News, St. John's.
This morning, a transport truck on the road to Burgeo flipped over, and it was a smelly crash. Thousands of herring sloshed onto the road. This is about 40 kilometers outside Burgeo near Top Brook. The driver escaped with cuts to his hands and head, and he was taken to Western Memorial Hospital in Corner Brook for a full checkup. Police say there was a lot of slush on the road when the accident happened. And there you can see all those fish on ice.
Yeah, he's certainly, the
He's
driver
lucky.
was lucky, very lucky, and obviously with all that slush, it was treacherous for driving.
Yep, all that herring on ice. Of course, road conditions and slush was not exactly a picnic trying to get to work today, on foot especially.
Yeah.
Well, I know driving in, a big wave came over the windshield. You weren't walking, were you?
No, no, no. I was trying to feel sorry for
You were
the
supposed to pick
pedestrians.
him up. Yeah. Now tomorrow, much of the same. Driving conditions are going to be a little on the dicey side, especially for the south coast of the island and the west coast of the island, and of course for you folks in Labrador. Let's have a look at that map. This is your snowfall outlook for the next 24 hours. So this is basically tonight and tomorrow, and you can see where some lighter snows across eastern parts of Newfoundland. I think St. John's closer to a trace to 2 centimeters possible, as we'll get clipped with some of those squalls. Best chance along the south coast and of course the west coast, where locally we could see more than 20 centimeters in the higher elevations, generally 10 to as much as 20 centimeters tonight through the day tomorrow, with those snow squalls blowing in. And we are looking at, again, that snowfall continuing across Labrador, 20 to 25 centimeters, not out of the question for Happy Valley Goose Bay, even more from Makovic. And again, that slush will freeze up across St. John's through the overnight tonight. Temperatures will dip down to around -1 or -2 by tomorrow morning. So a bit of a freeze up and definitely some slick conditions tomorrow morning to deal with all across the island. There are those snow squalls along the west coast with winds gusting close to 80 kilometers per hour, so very blustery. We'll talk more about this setup and your driving conditions right through the next couple of days in a few minutes.
I managed to convince Jacqueline Mayer to invite us into her house to do a little baking.
Are we ready to go? Stir.
Oh, sorry.
Now gently, gently, gently. Blueberry grunt into the pan.
It looks pretty good.
It looks wonderful. We got the way in the bay. That's what we got. Yeah, looks nice.
I'm so looking forward to seeing that. You had too much fun on that
We had
shoot.
a lot of fun. I got to thank Jacqueline Mayer, but stay tuned tomorrow and we'll give you a really nice recipe for the holidays.
Well, the gathering place in St. John's was the site of a heartwarming donation this morning.
Yeah, 6-year-old Lincoln Williams showed up with the $200 that he saved up over the last year. Lincoln's in grade 1, and he says this is very sweet. He wanted to do something nice for the people who go there for food, and he wanted them to have a safe place to hang out.
Aww. The center accepted his donation and said it will use the money to put on a lunch for the 350 people who show up this time of the year looking for a hot meal.
Saved up my tooth fairy money and all the rest of the money I got. And I saved up my tooth fairy money and my birthday money, and my nan and pop and uncle and aunt helped me and gave some to me. And when people came in, they gave me $1.
Can I squeeze him and hug him? His
It's
tooth
adorable
fairy
as
money.
Yeah, no. But even the tooth fairy money. How generous. Very generous.
Well, if you have visited the Avalon Mall over the years, you're familiar with one of the longest-running Christmas traditions there, the annual photo with Santa.
And tonight, we're going to introduce you to the man behind the camera, as well as his wife, who gets the kids to show off their absolute best smile.
Since the year 2000, Bruce Lee and Gunuk Song Lee have taken tens of thousands of Santa pictures.
Here now is Jeremy Eaton, tagged along with them earlier this week, and he joins us live now from the Avalon Mall.
So this is where all the photo magic happens. As you can see, there's boys and girls here getting their photos taken, but it takes a lot of time and effort to make these holiday memories picture perfect.
Don't have 2 cameras. If something fails, people in the line, they don't worry about my problems. Well, I saw a need for it when I came into the mall. I seen the Santa, and he wasn't well dressed, and the equipment was where you had to come back and purchase and get your picture after the fact. And I had the equipment. I said, I can print on the spot and have the person look at the screen and say, that's the shot I want. So then we can really work on the smile, and everybody goes away happy. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Repeat business is what makes the lineup so long, is because they've been coming back, because it becomes a part of their personal tradition. And they have like 6 photographs, and their child is 6 years old, and they can watch them, grow up in increments. So, and then we have, it's not unusual to get people coming back 17 years in a row, right? This is amazing.
He said that you're the woman who creates the smiles. How hard is it to get kids to smile for Santa Claus?
Sometimes hard and sometimes easy, right? And I guess a certain age, I can just animate it with the props, like the dolls.
Bring his hand down, Mom.
I grew up in South Korea. I moved in here when I was 28 years old. And I didn't grow up with Christmas at all. But now I'm living here and working here, and just the real spirit of Christmas exists. So I seen kids running into Santa Claus, and just to give them a hug, and then parents are looking at their children, and they're just loving eyes, and just sometimes I gotta just stop reading. It's not tear me up, so beautiful things, to watch.
As long as the Avalon Mall is cool with what we're doing here, and I know they are, because we often talk about making this thing an experience, not just get your photograph and get out. And no. Take your time with each individual. Make it cost so everybody can afford it too. That's why the lineups are long as well, because we don't overcharge people. Yay! Okay, that's a little smile. That's better than crying.
So as I've learned here from the folks at Photo Now, you're never too old to get your picture taken with Santa Claus. And coming up later on in the show, I'm actually going to try to get a quick interview with the big man himself. So reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Jeremy Eaton at the Avalon Mall.
Well, it's pretty good. He's going to get an interview with the big guy himself. Stay tuned. A mental health advocate is recognized for his work.
Thank you, she said. I know now that I never have to hurt myself again. I never have to go to the hospital again for hurting myself.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, this week, Ryan's been looking at all the wonderful facets of the weather of the year, the great stuff, the not so great stuff.
The ugly stuff. Spring has a lot of ugly moments.
Oh, and you know, the bar is set pretty low for spring, generally, here in Newfoundland and Labrador. But this spring was particularly bad. Here's a flashback for you. It all started with those back-to-back blizzards in central Newfoundland. 136 centimeters of snow buried Gander in just 7 days.
It's not something we never went through before, and I guess if we stay here for another few years, we'll probably have to repeat it again.
The cleanup from those storms continued for days, and the snow stuck around for weeks and weeks. In fact, with colder than average temperatures through April and May, in some areas, there was snow on the ground and even a fresh coating for the 24th of May. But maybe the biggest story of the spring was the ice. Persistent pack ice along the north coast of the island. It was June when some fishermen ventured out, but then had to be rescued after becoming trapped in the thick ice just offshore.
Crab fishery's been open now since the middle of April, and boats are on the go and they're scraping over the ground. And we've been 2 months now without income, myself and the crew. So, and in on the business perspective, you know, there's bills to pay, big, huge bills. So we got to get out and make money.
Thankfully, the winds and the weather finally began to turn through mid-June, and so came summer. But that's a story for another day.
Wow.
That brings the memories back.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
For you folks in Gander, breathe. Sure, a bit of trauma coming back into the mind there after, again, 136 centimeters in 7 days. Just unbelievable. Of course, that made international headlines, those back-to-back storms.
And it's not often you can take your quad or whatever that machine was over your roof.
onto the roof of your house, So as I mentioned, of course, after that spring, no one thought summer would be nice, but it was, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Okay, speaking of the seasons changing, how about this? Winter officially arrives tomorrow. And yes, happy winter solstice tomorrow at 12:57 Newfoundland time, of course 12:27 in most of Labrador. And for you kids out there, that means that the sun's greatest energy, the most direct rays of the sun, are now directed towards the southern hemisphere. And our sun angle in St. John's tomorrow just 18 degrees above the horizon. Our day length 8 hours and 26 minutes, but it's all uphill from here, or downhill.
Don't say that.
Towards the good. So days are going to get longer, and as we push towards the new year, we'll be talking more about that as we like to brighten us up. In January and February, we need something to talk about. Now, as we take a look at the watches and warnings right now, snow squall watches are in effect for the west coast of the island from Port aux Basques right up into the Port au Choix region. Snowfall warnings are in effect for Churchill Valley, Churchill Falls, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, right to the Straits and up the coast of Labrador, Hopedale. There is also a winter storm warning in effect for the Makovic and Postville region, and also heads up for that snowfall warning for the east side of the northern peninsula still in place there. This is the low, which has again been bringing that snowfall to Labrador. The onshore flurries and snow squalls just starting to be picked up here on the radar as those winds wrap around from the west. And this is your future tracker for wind gusts and precip. And I want you to note how strong those winds are going to become through the overnight hours tonight. Along the coast of the west, we're talking about gusts in the 70 to 80 kilometer per hour range with those snow squalls whipping in. It is going to be very blustery. Also, snow and blow continue along the coast of Labrador. Even Happy Valley, Goose Bay, inland gusts to 60 tomorrow. And St. John's will gust near 80 kilometers per hour as well. And as you can see there on the future tracker, there's a chance, looking like a pretty good chance, that overnight into Thursday morning, we'll see some of those squalls working their way across the Burin and the Avalon Peninsulas, maybe even up into Clarenville. So definitely keep that in mind. The morning commute could be dicey and will be dicey. And in fact, it will be blustery all day along the west coast. This is likely going to be very, very treacherous driving conditions at times, whiteout conditions, hence the snow squall watches, which are in effect for the west coast. Winds again gusting to 80 kilometers per hour across most of the island tomorrow. So while temperatures will be -1 to -3, feeling closer to the minus double digits, the snow continues in Labrador. And in case you missed it, this is the outlook for the next 24 hours. What I'm thinking in terms of snowfall, 10 to 20 plus centimeters along the west coast. Amounts drop off quickly. And again, the highest totals along the west coast will be in the higher elevations. And again, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, likely in that 15 to 20, even 25 centimeter range over the next 24 hours. Now the squalls continue for Thursday night in through Friday, though starting to ease as the winds become a little bit lighter as well. You note the storms starting to pull away in Labrador. And so Friday's certainly a cool one, still a little on the breezy side, not quite as strong those winds will be, but keep in mind those onshore flurries will likely continue even as we roll into the Saturday forecast, though easing through Saturday and a pretty good travel day overall. We'll talk more about this and we'll walk you right through the Christmas stretch coming up with your long range in just a few minutes, Debbie.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, Senator David Wells presented mental health advocate Patrick Hickey and Egg Walters from the Food Sharing Association with Canada 150 medals today.
Yeah, that's right. It was just a few weeks ago. You were the hostess with the mostest at the Red Cross Humanitarian Awards. And
Patrick Hickey was one of the, well, he was the recipient of the Young Humanitarian, and he wasn't even quite 21.
Right. Very impressive.
Very impressive.
Now, St. John's Morning Show radio host Chrissy Holmes was there for those medals this morning, and she asked Egg Walters if there was a turning point in his life that motivated him to do what he does. And it all goes back to a call he received many years ago on Christmas Eve.
Last year, she said my sister got a hamper, but she never got one this year, and she wanted that she had done something wrong. And I said, well, let me check it out. So I checked it out, and she wasn't on the list. And at the same time, after a while, I was checking it out. There was an elderly lady phoned in and said that she had just finished baking some Christmas cookies and some cakes and breads and that, and it was still fresh. And she wanted to know if we could use them, and you know, the light went off, and I said, well, maybe I can put a hamper together and get this fresh product and bring it hand delivered to this lady, which I did. And on top of the hamper was one of these red wicker baskets with the, you know, the little tinsely stuff in it, and it was a container of small preserves that was in it. And this was on top of the hamper. And when I brought it in to the lady, this little boy came out, and he saw the colored container of preserves, and he jumped up in my arms, and his mother came over and she hugged me, and it was right then and there that I knew that this is what I was really meant to do. And it stuck me, and I went home and I sat down in the easy chair and I just cried.
You realize that people in your life who you care about are struggling, and struggling alone, and struggling with something that can be a life or death matter. When I got to an age when I could really understand that, sort of a spark went off, that something had to happen. I had to try and do something. And I just didn't want anyone to have to struggle alone anymore. You know, we all struggle, we all have challenges, but there's absolutely no reason for anyone to deal with anything in silence, on their own, in the dark.
What was the point when you knew that the work you were doing was working?
I think something that comes to mind at a youth mental health conference in the city a number of years ago now. The conference was cluing up, and there was a musical performance happening actually, and I was outside of the hall where the music was being played, just sort of catching my breath, and this young girl came up to me who was in high school at the time, and she said to me, thank you. She said, I know now that I never have to hurt myself again. I never have to go to the hospital again for hurting myself. And it's moments like that where you can kind of realize the magnitude of the struggles people are dealing with, but also the incredible resilience of people in our communities, individuals, and just you know, the difference that can be made by, you know, lending a helping hand.
Some of the big issues in Newfoundland and Labrador are obviously access to food related to poverty and also mental health issues. And we knew that there were some superstars in those two sectors that don't always get the recognition that they deserve. And further, in gaining that recognition, I was hoping to shine some light on some of the things that they're doing, the important things that they're doing, let Newfoundlanders and Labradorians know that, let Canadians know that, and give them recognition for the hard work that they do.
A few weeks ago, a Facebook group started a Christmas campaign, but things were a little slow. Not now. Donations have been pouring in to help spread a little Christmas cheer. I'll tell you about it coming up. A Christmas campaign launched by the Need Something, Got Something Facebook group is overwhelmed by the response from the public. We told you about Carla Crotty's group a few weeks ago and the huge need at this time of the year. Well, just like the magic of Christmas, the items appeared. And Carla Crotty, what do you make of this response from the public?
Well, Debbie, as you can see, it's more like Santa's workshop than a Winmar warehouse. And the response has indeed been overwhelming.
More than you ever expected, isn't it?
More than I expected, that's fair to say. I mean, I knew when we started this people would be generous because, you know, people are quite generous when you give them an opportunity to be. But when I first walked in here yesterday and saw just how much stuff had come in, I was blown away.
Carla, what are some of the people who come here with the donations saying to you? Why are they involved?
Many people have often struggled themselves and so can appreciate how hard it can be for families this time of year. And a lot of people honestly just know somebody who's down and out right now. So you don't need to look very far before you see somebody in your own circle who's struggling right now.
You're getting a lot of food items as well, aren't you?
We've had turkeys coming in, you know, on a regular basis. We have had so many veggies which are being assembled in the back there. Cabbage, turnip, potatoes. So families that we're able to help will certainly have a merrier Christmas because of this effort.
At this point now, how many families are you going to be able to help?
It's in and about 100, and these families will, for the most part, have something for the children in the way of toys. warm items for anybody in the household, whether it be hats or mitts or socks, and the food hamper. So a turkey with vegetables and everything for Christmas.
This would have been an awful lot to fit into your living room, Carla, so I imagine you want to give a big shout out to Winmar.
I don't have any way of saying anything other than just saying thank you, but I mean, as you can see, like, this would not have happened in my living room. It's not just a space, like the Winmar staff have been phenomenal. They have really taken this on. They have tracked items that have come in. They've tallied turkeys. They're keeping, you know, gift cards tallied and stored and locked away. This has been a group effort, and one of the girls here right now, she's actually a doctor in her residency who could no doubt be spending her time studying, I'm sure, but you know, she knows that there's a need, and she's been a member of the group, and she's been kind enough to come in, and without those people, this wouldn't happen.
Carla, somehow you and Santa's helpers on this campaign have really tapped into a spirit of giving. How does it make you feel?
It's a lot. It's a lot of emotion, honestly. This has been such a positive experience for 100 families who didn't know how Christmas was going to happen. For this to go on and for them to know that they're taken care of, I can't imagine like the real relief they must feel. It's been difficult from a mental health perspective for sure. Like, I've had to tell a lot of people no. This is great. This is so wonderful, and we are doing this, and there are other organizations doing this, but I'm telling you, for the 100 families that we've helped, there's 100 families that we've not helped because we don't have the capacity. So I think if listeners could just remember that, you know, this time of year, if you haven't had a chance to give yet, there's definitely a lot of opportunity to do so.
Crumbs, dressing.
This has done nothing but lift my Christmas spirit, and I tell you right now, the volunteers here would tell you that too.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Debbie.
It's really mushroomed, right?
It really has. The response, they appreciate it so much, but as Carla said, she could help 100 more families, and that's not going to be possible, but there is still some time to get some items over there, and she did particularly mention that teenagers, they need things for teens.
Right, people forget, the little young kids, but yeah, teens and tweens, they need stuff, so if you got anything, a bit of generosity will go a long way.
Time to introduce our young athlete of the day, and today it is Aidan Dalton of CBS. 6 years old, takes part in swimming, soccer, and Kempo.
Aidan also enjoys hiking with his mother, which is sweet.
Congratulations, Aidan. You're today's young athlete of the day.
Nice.
Great smile, right? So just before we get the weather from Ryan, I guess we should name yesterday's winners of our much coveted toques for Toque Tuesday.
That's right.
We're getting a great response. A lot of people entering.
That's right. And because they're really, really nice toques. Now, we should mention that because it's the season of giving, that instead of 2 toques for Toque Tuesday, we're giving away 4 toques. We're doubling it up. So 2 winners from Twitter, 2 from Facebook.
Perfect. And yesterday's winners, the people who answered the question, that question was, what was your favorite weather moment of 2017? And one of our winners was Susan Smith-Vincent, who says her favorite fall picture is of a beautiful rainbow over Botwood Harbor.
It is beautiful. And Sandra Pye sent us this picture. She says, it is so calm. There's no weather at the moment.
Right. So
is that a Newfoundland expression? There's no weather. It's a nice one.
Yeah, it's a rarity if there's no weather. And we also have 2 Facebook winners. Bernice Burton says her favorite moment involved the back-to-back snowstorms in Greens Pond that shut down the main roads for 2 or 3 days. I don't know if it's her favorite, but certainly her most memorable.
Yeah.
And Kristen Hibbs said her favorite involved, of course, the fantastic summer in Newfoundland, the amount of hiking that she was able to do. So although she did feel for the folks in Labrador who had a soggy summer, and as I said, we'll talk more about that tomorrow.
Perfect.
Sounds great.
Okay, so another recap of that map, because I want to show you once again the west coast of the island where things are going to be dicey. I just posted a picture on Twitter where in Bond Bay, that stretch there between Rocky Harbor and Deer Lake was already dicey as of this afternoon, with those onshore flurries continuing to ramp up in the snow squalls. More messy scenes along that west coast for travel over the next 24 hours, even into Friday. Most of the snow will be confined to Labrador, and again, looking at 5 to 10 centimeters from the straits and 10 to 20 over the hills and back into Happy Valley Goose Bay and up towards the coast, where 20 plus is looking like the best possibility right now. That system will continue to roll to the north as we move over the next 24 hours or so. That snow, again, really cranking up for the coast of Labrador into Happy Valley Goose Bay overnight tonight and even down towards Churchill Falls. And those snow squalls with winds gusting 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. Expect whiteout conditions, very blustery scenes along the west coast, and some of those squalls moving into the Burin and Avalon peninsulas overnight into Thursday morning as well. So if you're driving, be mindful that you could encounter clear 1 minute and very blustery the next. That is the nature of those snow squalls. Now, as we roll into Friday, you'll note the winds shift a little bit. Onshore flurries do continue. The snow squalls not quite as intense, but certainly the chance once again for Friday for the Burin, the Avalon, but most definitely the west coast of the island. Friday night becoming even a little bit lighter into the Saturday time period. It looks like pretty solid travel conditions on Saturday, which of course is the 23rd, and I think a lot of folks are going to be trying to get around on Saturday, and so some good news there. As we roll into the long range, note that area of high pressure sinks to the south. Sunday travel, not so much. As we roll into the Christmas Eve morning time period, note the snow on the leading edge of this system. Forecast models showing snow in Labrador, and then a mix from snow to rain across the island through Christmas Eve day. And then as we roll into the Monday time period, again, for the most part, Christmas Day, pretty quiet, but late Christmas Day into the afternoon and evening hours, looks like our next system will arrive. Looks like more snow and wind for Labrador. This will be snow possibly changing to rain, and a very windy one looking set for Newfoundland. Lots of time to iron that one out. And I should mention that Christmas Day system, there is a considerable uncertainty with that at the moment. That's Christmas Day into Boxing Day. Got all that? Here's the 7-day trend, and note the mixing, again, possible for Christmas Eve and again on Christmas Day into Boxing Day for the island. And into Labrador, we are looking at pretty chilly conditions, certainly colder than normal. Highs near -20 Friday into Saturday, and again on Christmas Day, highs near -25 in the west.
Welcome back. A girl from St. John's is making her wish to Santa, and it's an interesting wish, and she's making it pretty clear.
Yeah, you'll see. 9-year-old Jennifer Murphy was playing in the snow over the weekend when she came up with the idea to write the message you see here. Santa, stop here, leave presents, take brother. It's her older brother, apparently.
Yeah, of course it must be. Now, their mother says Jennifer's brother Ryan laughed off the joke, and of course, only a few days, brother was worse. Of course, only a few days until we know what Santa's response to that's going to be. Maybe he'll get a one-way ticket to the North Pole.
So still with Santa, let's go back to the Avalon Mall to check in with Jeremy Eaton. Jeremy.
So we got a minute and 30 seconds.
Oh, actually,
as you can see, there's a long lineup of people getting their picture taken, but I think I might have got a special exclusive here. Can you just introduce yourself, young man?
My name is Seth.
Seth, how many years have you been getting your picture taken with Santa Claus here at the mall?
I think 5 or 6 or 7, I don't know.
Your mom's been saying you've been coming here for 11 years because this year you're 10 years old, right?
Yep.
And how exciting is it to meet the big guy himself here?
Pretty exciting.
Now, Santa, I know that you're a busy guy. You got a lot of work to do. There's only a few more days left before Christmas. But if you had a chance to reach out to the children out there watching CBC's Here and Now, what sort of things would you like to say to the kids just a couple days before Christmas?
Well, Santa wants to make sure that they're being good for their mums and dads and making sure that the Christmas tree is up, and Santa has to check with the elves, make sure that the production line is still on the go, because there's a lot of toys for the boys and girls, and it's nice to see young boys like him come in because they're really good for their parents, and Santa's making sure that they're good, because if you get on the naughty list, Santa's not going to leave you no gifts. So you got to remember that, boys and girls, okay? Santa's always watching.
And I know Santa's been watching me, because sometimes I've been swaying there, almost falling there on the naughty list. Appreciate your time, Santa. Thanks so much. Reporting live next to the big man himself, I'm Jeremy Eaton for Here and Now at the Avalon Mall.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.
What do you think that Jeremy put in a word for what he wants with Santa?
Plus,
so,
yeah, on the naughty list. He hasn't received a gift from Santa in about 28 years. I don't think.
Oh, too true. We could go down that road, but we won't, because we've got to get to our viewer pictures. And first one was my pick for the year. This was Ryan Winters took this beautiful picture of the Northern Lights in Hopedale. Can never go wrong with a Northern Lights picture.
Another one.
Yeah, I really like this because of the composition, the yellow eyes, the yellow background, just a stunning picture.
Definitely. This was taken by Vernon Buckle in Labrador in the Forto Bay region.
Okay.
And finally, Debbie's pick.
I just like it. What can I say?
It's so artsy. That's what you like, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Thanks very much to Lisa. And it's Gander Harvest Moon. I have an affinity for that neck of the woods.
Yeah, the gander bias. The gander bias comes out.
Anyway, thanks for all those pictures. We'll show you some more tomorrow night. Have a great night. See you back here tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
I couldn't help it.
No.
That was a nice one.